People want to hear good stories, and this is a great story.
They don't just say, oh, you work at Taziki's? I like Taziki's. No, they go so far to say, Taziki's, you work at? I love Taziki's.
Before Taziki's, I was actually the cafe manager at Bottega Restaurant. Everything was fresh. Everything was cut, made to order. Everything was sauteed or grilled. It wasn't so much the food, it was more the passion for the food. What are we doing with this food? And Bottega kind of sparked that for me. So when I met Amy, she'd traveled to Greece prior to us getting engaged and becoming married. She's like, before we have kids, I want to take you to Greece. So I want you to experience the food, the people. So that's what I did. When we were there, we had no aspirations. We just wanted to see the country, the beautiful, eat the food. But in Kos, we weren't sure we were going to go eat. So we go walking down one of the little alleyways and we come across this small Greek restaurant. There was nobody in there, but I saw the whole lamb, it was on a spit. And I was like, we need to try that place. The couple could not speak a word of English. And thank goodness their son introduced us to his mom and dad and himself. And I told Amy while we were on that aisle, I said, I don't want to go eat anywhere else. This is where I want to stay. It was just the hospitality and the love that they showed toward me and Amy. And we were just, a young and loved couple. They kind of put the exclamation point of, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. This is how I want to get there. So when we got back, I said, Amy, I think it's my time to do something. I really want to create my own little cafe similar to what we experienced when we were in Greece. First thing is that, we have no money. We decided that we would take a small equity line of credit on our home. And that meant that failure was not an option and the risk was high. The risk was you lose your house. But she believed in me. I believed in myself. I believed in our location. I believed that we could do it. We could make this happen. With that $50,000, we made it happen. So when we were thinking about a name, I started looking through the pictures and looking at maps and pulling everything out. And there was a picture of Amy standing next to a menu board and it said Tzatziki. And I went, if I take out a T and I take out a Z, then it would be called Taziki's. The people in the South and everybody else could probably pronounce that. So, Amy, I think Taziki's is the name. She's like, I love it. So, hence Taziki's. We kind of went back in some of our pictures and some of the ideas and said, how can we bring that to Birmingham? How can we bring that to everywhere we go? I want to use fresh lamb. I wanted everything to be fresh and fresh on the plate. So we opened T1. We had 78 people walk in the door. And I was like, that's a really good start. Once we got our bearings and once we're kind of pretty grounded in T1, I think now it's time to expand. And I think we've got a good base. I got great employees. One of our favorite customers owned a spot a couple miles down the road. I said, we're gonna try this again. Just kind of wanted to give that guest the same experience. And we really did the same thing. The challenge was during the opening process, Amy was pregnant with our first set of twins. We wanted to have children, but that wasn't really the plan. So when she was pregnant with the first set of twins, I'm like, okay, now it's okay. I've got 2 restaurants. I'll have 2 kids and they can work and Amy and I can retire one day. Said, give that a couple of years so that we moved to our 3rd restaurant. And the challenge was she was pregnant again with another set of twins. So that was like, okay, well, we can do one T1, we can run T2. We just opened T3. Now my partner, Amy, was not in the picture because she was busy taking care of our kids. Those were the nights that I escaped. I'd come in early for work to lay down on the booths and sleep for a couple hours because of the stereo of screaming and crying kind of kept me awake. But if I did not have that peace and that nap time, there probably wouldn't be a T4, T5, or T6. I don't want to say everything was on cruise control, but we had the 3 stores going and it was successful. Word was getting around. So we had people, kind of friends that I knew, and they wanted a joint venture with us. And I just really didn't see the advantage of doing something like that. And John Michael and his dad would come to the restaurant and we would always talk, and he'd talk about franchising. I knew what business he was in and kind of thought about it, and he said, hey, if you're interested. So we kept that dialogue open, kept thinking about it. And that was something that was like, maybe I kind of need to think about this.
Though I wasn't around for it originally, I know that John Michael, who brought his father and the Bodners into loving Taziki's and ultimately investing in Taziki's to help Keith take this dream and really help it grow.
What I didn't have was, the tools and the processes, and I knew that they had that with them. So that's something, thought about, actually prayed a lot about, and talked to Amy. I said, what's the future? Do we want to keep doing this ourselves? Do we want to bring in partners to help, build the brand up? And I said, if we do these partners, I think these are the guys that maybe we should talk to. It was tough because, you create something and then it's your baby. Selfishly, I wanted to keep it internal, but just me. But I knew that to grow it, I had to reach out and I needed the support. And so that's exactly what they gave me, was the support. It was not so much an offer when they came in, it was more of like a partnership. They knew my passion for the brand that I created. Really, they just wanted to lift that up. The wrestling with the thought of being in partners, no, not with these guys, because I trusted them. And that's what you've got to do. While this is my baby, they continued and still continue to let us do what we do best. Their process was also, let's find partners to help expand this.
So when I arrived at Taziki, there was about 15 units. There were the original Birmingham locations through the fresh sort of friends and family network that expanded. So my task was to take these initial 16 units that were done under a variety of agreements and fold them into the franchise program that we know today.
When I first came in, Taziki was around 30 units and looking into the future for what would be next. The brand was at important crossroads, and we identified the key things that we needed for Taziki's to grow, and that evolved into then being asked to stay on as the CEO.
I did have to pause because it was kind of emotional for me to open that first restaurant away from Birmingham, to say, you know what? When I look at this line, I never thought, this tomato chutney aioli and all our recipes were going to be in another town. Never thought in a million years that would even happen, and that people would like it. Once you create something and you don't want to let it go, but it's in the best interest to let some of it go, giving it to the right people made the difference.
Keith is an entrepreneur, right? He's a guy with a big idea, a big heart, and he rolled up his sleeve and did the hard work to get it done. I am an entrepreneur. I love big ideas that are people-driven and that are scalable. And so we fit easily. This model being a franchise model just, of course, makes perfect sense, because what are our franchise partners? They're entrepreneurs. And so there's this kindredness around this group of entrepreneurs that have joined together to help achieve this shared dream.
When we start bringing in franchisees, or I'll even call them partners, not so much franchisees, but when we bring in these partners, I want to make sure that number one, their heart's in it. It's not just about, yes, you enjoy the food, but are you going to give back to the community? Are you going to give your guests the best experience you can? I want them to take ownership of the brand that I created and be as passionate, be as servant leader as you can. Are you a member of the community? Do you go to church there? Does your son play football? Are you ingrained in what goes on? Do you know the people? You got to be in the store. When you open your restaurant in your market, you are the face of the brand.
One of the greatest surprises and delights in being part of the Taziki's brand is how much not only people like the brand, and how much people trust the brand, and how much people remember the brand. But every time I get on an airplane, or I'm wearing my Taziki's hat or Taziki's branded shirt, the response you get from people is just over the top. They don't just say, oh, you work at Taziki's? I like Taziki's. No, they go so far to say, Taziki's, you work at? I love Taziki's. And it's always love. It's never frequent. It's never enjoy. They go all the way to this tiny category in life where people actually love the brand.
People trust what we're serving. They trust the brand. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I still want our guests to trust the brand, to continue to say, hey, if I want a good meal, I want to go to Taziki's. And I want something healthy, I want to go to Taziki's. If I need a no-fuss experience, I'm going to go to Taziki's. People don't come for the pictures, they come for the food, and they come for an experience. That's what I look for. Are we giving them the best food that we can make, and we're giving them a good experience?